racing fans. This is Dr. K in Omaha, Nebraska with another installment, volume number 10 of our turf racing series. Today's topic is how to put accurate labels on a horse to know what type of horse it really is. There's a bunch of traps to it, and ultimately, if you don't make the right labels, you engage in the wrong pace analysis and you can't take advantage of the track bias. So it's really important that we apply the right label, so let's get right to it. Everybody knows the type of horse that has to be on the lead. If a horse ever passes it, it just stops. That's going to be an E. But there are some horses that have enough early speed that they can either be on the lead or press very closely, and they're going to be, we're going to call them EPs, because they can both lead as an E, but they can also press as a P. They want to be at no more than about 2 lengths back if they're not on the lead. But again, they're going to be that horse that if they're not the front runner, they're probably in second place or third place at the worst going into the first turn. The third type of horse we need to talk about then, of course, are the pressers, which are 1 to 4 lengths behind, depending on how many other pressers there are and how fast the pace is. They're going to be just somewhere close to the front, but not right at the front, and they almost never lead and basically never do lead in whatever type of race they're in. The next level is what we call a PS, and those are ones that show the characteristic of being able to be a presser, but they're going to be more the presser of like 3-4 lengths back, or they can be a bit of a closer like 5 or 6 lengths back. So they've got a little bit more diversity within them. So we're going to call them PSs. And then the ones that close from the clouds, the ones that are 5 lengths back, 10 lengths back, or however far they get themselves in that much trouble, we're going to call them the S's. And it's really important that when you go through and you circle the race that you really want to use, not only for the stats, but also for the pace analysis, that you get it correct as to the label. Because when we do the pace analysis, and we're going to have future videos on pace analysis and how to take advantage of the pace analysis that exists so you can take advantage of the track profile, it's really important you get the right labels. But there are 2 traps that happen when people make these labels, and they make these mistakes all the time, and I just want to bring them to your attention. The first thing is when you look at the pace call times for a horse in a race, and let's say you've circled a given race that you think best represents this horse's capability. And I tend to use the race that's either at the distance or a 1/16 of a mile away that has the highest daily racing form time. Again, I'm always looking for those horses that are in the 90s in particular and up 90 to 100, because to me those are the horses that usually win. But once I do that, a lot of people make the mistake of once they've circled a race and they think, oh, this horse is a front runner, or this horse is a presser, or whatever label that they want to put on, but they don't look at the pace call time. It's amazing how many people will call somebody a presser, and then you look at the pace call time and it's a 1:15, it's a 1:16 if it's a route, or it's a 46, 47, 48 if it's a sprint. When you've got those type of slow times, even if technically they fall within the number of lengths back, you've got to adjust it based on the time as well. So it's not just the straight math of how many lengths behind they are. You got to look at the time. And so you've got a good idea, and particularly if you look at the par charts, you've got a good idea of how fast these horses ought to be running. But if you see in route races anything over than about 1:14, you know it's too slow, and so you've got to change the label back at least 1. So maybe you've got a presser, but it's running a pace call number of 1:16. That's got to become a PS, maybe even an S, depending on what its other races are like too. And the other thing that happens is you've got horses, of course, that run different distances between sprint and routes. And so if you've got a horse that's maybe a presser in a sprint, but now is going to a longer race to a route, maybe a horse that's been running on the turf at 5.5 furlongs, 6 furlongs, but now they're going to try, say, a mile race. If that horse was, say, a presser, it's going to be an EP. And the reason why I'm going to say it's an EP is there's just as much chance in my mind that that horse will actually be on the lead, moving sprint or route, if it's that close to the pace in a sprint. But it might also, just because the jockey is trying to be forceful about it, try and limit the horse a little bit, try and not put him on the lead and be a presser. So when a horse goes longer, you've got to decrease the label. So if it's a presser, it's got to go down to an EP. But the flip side is true if you're going from a route to a sprint. If you've got a presser that's now going to a sprint, then they got to move from a P to a PS. And so that's really important that you stay away from those traps, whether it's the slow pace call time or the fact that they're moving from sprint to route or route to sprint. And if you do that and you apply the right label, then you can engage in really meaningful pace analysis by figuring out how many E's are in the race, how many EPs, how many P's, how many PS's, and how many S's. And then once you see the distribution of that, then the numbers that you're going to apply later come better into focus. Because what these labels do is it allows you a chance to have an idea in your mind of what the pace of the race is going to be. And if you don't have an idea of how the pace is going to run, because you've got the wrong labels, you'll never take advantage of the track bias and get to the point where you can be very comfortable knowing that you've got 80% of the winners within your analysis. And that's all for today.